up for the WWE Hall of Famer, Kurt Angle.
Thanks, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Welcome. Louder.
You suck! You suck! You suck! You suck!
Thank you.
Thank you.
You suck! You suck!
Thank you, guys.
That song never gets old.
Never, never. I gotta say, thank you for coming. All right, guys, I gotta say, guys, welcome him to Toronto, guys. Kurt Angle, one more time. I gotta say, thank you so much for coming. Welcome to the Johnny I Pro Show Live. Thank you.
It's an honor to come back to Canada. I haven't been here in a while, so I'm really excited about being here. Yeah.
Exactly. And I gotta start off by saying, everybody knows this story, but such a great one to talk about. 1996, when you won the Olympic gold medal with a broken freaking neck. Let's talk about that right there.
Okay, what do you want to talk about?
Just like that feeling for representing your country and winning the gold medal with a broken neck.
Well, you know what? Growing up in Pittsburgh, my brothers were all wrestlers, and I wasn't very good when I started. Actually, I got my ass handed to me quite a few times, and my family doubted if I'd ever be good at wrestling. And what happened was a tragedy occurred that turned a light bulb on in my head. And my dad was killed in a construction accident my freshman year in high school. And losing him at that age was really tough. And so he was our biggest fan. He was our biggest supporter. He was such a sports fan. He never missed any of our events. Even if he had to leave work early, if the event was earlier in the day and he had to leave work early, he would show up, and I loved him for that. So I dedicated my athletic career to my dad. When I did that, I started getting more focused and more determined. I started setting goals for myself. And by my senior year, I won a state championship in wrestling, and then everything followed. In college, I won 2 NCAA titles, and then I went on to the Olympic level and made the world team and won the world championships. Ended up winning the Olympic gold medal, which was my lifetime dream. You know, I was a big sports fan back in the early 70s, and I watched Bruce Jenner win the Olympic gold medal, and that motivated me. That's who I wanted to be like. I knew I wasn't going to do it in track, obviously, but I knew that I was going to do what my brothers did, and I represented them very well in the Olympics in 1996. I made my family very proud, and I made my dream come true, and I did it with a broken freaking neck.
I love it. Now I gotta say now, who are your favorites growing up in wrestling, like that you just looked up to?
I never watched wrestling. I didn't watch wrestling growing up. See, you have to remember, I'm an amateur wrestler, and back in the 1990s, amateur wrestling was taking a backseat to pro wrestling. I'll explain what I'm talking about. If someone asked me what I did for a living, I'd say I'm a wrestler. They'd say, oh, one of those wrestlers on TV, and I'd be like, no, you idiot, I'm a real wrestler. I'm an amateur wrestler, an Olympic wrestler. And because of that, we were always told to stay away from pro wrestling, to not watch it, don't affiliate with it. So I never watched it. And after I won the Olympic gold medal, Vince McMahon contacted me, and he wanted to invite me up to his office, and he wanted to offer me a contract. And it was a multi-million-dollar deal he put in front of my face. I never saw money like that, or money in general. I never had money. So I said, Vince, could I take it home and think about it? Because I knew my brothers were going to be like, you're not doing that stuff. So I told him, you know, let me take it home and talk to my family. So I brought it home to my brothers, and obviously that's what they said. I said, you're not doing that crap. That's fake. You're the real deal. And I talked to my coaches too, and they said the same thing. So I turned it down. And to this day, I'm not sure why. But in 1998, what was crazy is Vince McMahon came out of the closet and said, we're no longer sport, we're sports entertainment. Basically de-legitimizing wrestling, saying that it's fake. Well, predetermined, it's a better word for it. Because of that, my brother said, hey, you can do it now. Go call the WWE, see if they're still interested. So in 1998, I called the WWE, and I said, does that contract still stand from 1996, that multi-million-dollar deal? And they said, no, but you can come up and try out. So I figured nothing in my life's ever come easy. I'll go up and work for it. So I went up and tried out. And after the first day, I picked up on everything pretty quickly. They offered me a contract. And it wasn't a very good contract. I was offered $75,000 a year. And remember, when you're a wrestler, you travel 300 days a year. The WWE only pays for your airfare. You have to pay for your hotel, rental car, food, tolls. So 75 grand doesn't go very far. So it's a pretty shitty contract. So I had one of the lowest contracts. But because of my success my rookie year, I was able to make $1 million that year. And so I was up with the main eventers, and then I was able to renegotiate my contract and get the $1 million guarantee and everything like that. So it actually all worked out for me.
Exactly. Now I got to say now, you held 2 prestige titles at the same time, the European Championship and the Intercontinental Championship. Not a lot quite did that. D'Lo Brown obviously did that. But
He doesn't count.
No. He doesn't count. I love it. Now tell us about that, like how prestigious was that, just winning both of those?
It was a great beginning for me. I started on TV at the end of November, early December, and within January, I won the European title. And I knew the WWE had plans for me. I knew that they wanted me to, they were gonna do a lot of stuff with me. So I won the European title, and a month later, I won the Intercontinental title, and I named myself the Eurocontinental Champion. And that stood for a while. But I had a great rookie year. I probably had the best rookie year out of anybody in history. We'll probably talk about this in a minute here. But I ended up beating The Rock 10 months into my rookie year. And that was a huge win for me. That turned the corner for me for my career.
Exactly. Let's talk about that right there. No Mercy, 2000. Become the WWF champion. First The Rock. How about that moment right there?
Well, I was so terrified because I only trained for 7 months. The average wrestler, they take about 3 to 4 or 5 years of training before they go on WWE television. Vince McMahon rushed me. I mean, he was on top of it. And what my opponents had to do for me, because I didn't know psychology that well. If you know what psychology is, it's good guy versus bad guy. Good guy out-wrestles the bad guy. The bad guy gets heat on the good guy. The good guy makes a comeback. The bad guy either cheats and wins, or the good guy overcomes the cheating and wins. So I didn't understand psychology that well. And I also, I could barely structure a 6-minute match. And if you're a main event, you're gonna wrestle 30 minutes. So what my opponents had to do for me for my first whole year was structure the whole entire match for me before the match started. And then they had to call the whole entire match in the ring so I wouldn't forget any spots. And I did that for about a year, even when I beat The Rock for the World Championship. But if it weren't for these individuals stepping up for me and helping me out, I would have never had the career I did. So I have to thank a lot of my opponents for being very generous. And I'll tell you this, I remember the first time that WWE called me up to make my debut. I cut one promo in Memphis when I was training there. That's it. We didn't have OVW or NXT back then. So we had no way of preparing for TV. So Vince McMahon invites me into his office when I was gonna make my debut for Raw. He said, listen, you're gonna cut a promo tonight and have a wrestling match. And I said, Vince, I suck at promos. I said, I can't cut promos. I did one in Memphis and it was horrible. He said, well, listen, I'm gonna give you an opportunity. You're either gonna sink or you're gonna swim. And I was like, okay. So he said, listen, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna tell you what to do out there. I'm gonna tell you what to say. I want you to go out there and do it. And I said, you're not gonna write it down for me to memorize? Because that's what they usually do. He said, no, I'm gonna tell you it once. And I want you to go out there and perform it. So he starts telling me the promo, and 3 minutes goes by, and I'm like, holy shit, this is a long promo. And he keeps talking for like 6 minutes. And he finishes, and he says, all right, I want you to go out there and perform it. And I said, Vince, I'm sorry, but I didn't hear a word you said. You're gonna have to repeat it again. So he said, I'm gonna tell you one more time, you either sink or swim. And he told me it one more time, and I got about 80% of it right. He said, you know what, I can work with this kid. This kid has ability, he's got a good future. So he starts having me cut promos every week. And week after week, they're getting longer and longer, and I'm getting better and better at them. And if Vince McMahon didn't push me out of my comfort zone and force me to do these promos, I would have never had the success I had. So he made the right call, and I'm very grateful for my career because of Vince and the wrestlers around me.
Perfect, guys. Give it up for that story right there, of course. Now, let's talk about the six-way Hell in a Cell match, Armageddon, where you defended your title.
That was a brutal match. Yeah, there were a lot of legends in that ring. Stone Cold, Rock, Undertaker, I believe Rikishi, Kane, and myself, I think. So all the top guys were in there, and I was a rookie. Here I am with all these superstars, and it was a little scary. I was, what's the word I'm looking for? They were very imposing, and but they had me win the title there, or I actually retained the title at that pay-per-view. But that was a really brutal match. There was a lot of crazy stuff we did in that match. That was a Hell in a Cell match, and I remember Rikishi taking that bump at the end where he took a choke slam off the top of the cage onto a pickup truck. And man, it was that scary. He's a big dude. He's 500 pounds. And for him falling down there, they had some hay in the pickup truck. It wasn't a lot of stuff there, but at least it broke some of his fall. But man, to go backward and do that, there was no way in hell I was going to do it. So, Rikishi, I give him a lot of credit for that. But that match, that put me at the level of the other main eventers. After I won that match, I became at that same level as The Rock and Stone Cold and Undertaker, and it felt really good. And being my rookie year and knowing that I had that much success, it was a big year for me.
Exactly. Now I got to say, 2000 winner at the King of the Ring, but then 2001 you fought 3 times, and then that iconic match for Shane McMahon.
I did that 2 years in a row. I went 2000.
And now we all know that moment, right, when he just suplexed Shane McMahon right to that glass smash, right? Do you remember that? Let's talk about that right there. Like Shane McMahon, I don't want to say this, but the balls that he has.
Shane is the craziest bastard I've ever met in my life. He anytime he wrestles, he steals the show. The kid's unbelievable because he's not a full-time wrestler. And he just does so many incredible stunts. It's just amazing how athletic he is. And I had the match with him, and I remember, we were going to do this spot where I was going to throw him through this glass. And it was supposed to be sugar glass. And the guy ordered the wrong glass. he ordered plexiglass. So I was throwing Shane through the plexiglass. It wasn't breaking because it was so stiff. And I threw him once and he didn't go through, and I picked him up and I threw him again, he didn't go through. I said, Shane, we got to move on to the next spot because this isn't working. He goes, fuck that, throw me through the glass. And I was like, okay. So I throw through the glass and he goes through. And when I go through the glass to get him, he's bleeding like all over the place. His head, his back. He had to get about 70 stitches at the hospital that night. It was horrible. I had 20 stitches myself. But after I threw him through the glass, I went and got him, and I had to throw him back through the other glass, back through. So I was like, oh, shit. So I go to throw him, and he hits, and the glass doesn't break. He lands right on his head. I'm like, oh, my God. Now Vince is getting out of his seat because he wants to come out here, got to come out and stop the match. He didn't want his son to, get killed. So someone held Vince back, and I said, screw it. I threw Shane through face first instead of, because I wanted to make sure I broke the glass. And that made it 10 times worse for him because he ended up, his whole face got mauled. I mean, he had stitches all over his forehead and his temples and everything that night. What's crazy is the end of the night when we were in the hospital, I broke my tailbone that night wrestling Shane. So we were in a wheelchair, both of us, and we're high-fiving each other. And we're like, I'm thinking like today, like, we're dumbasses, We almost killed each other, and we're all happy about it. Like, it was just ridiculous. So, but that match definitely put me on the map for doing street fights. I'm a technical guy. I'm not a street fighter. But that match gave me a reputation that, I can do just about anything. So I thank Shane McMahon for that because it was his idea.
Exactly. We want to thank you. Obviously, right, guys? We want to thank him for the memories that he gave us as well, right? Of course. Now let's talk about you winning the WCW title in your hometown, Pittsburgh, versus Booker T. And that was during the whole invasion. We'll get to that as well. Let's talk about the invasion as well.
Beating Booker T was a big win for me. He came from WCW. These guys, obviously WCW got bought by the WWE, and these guys had nowhere else to go, and they came up to the WWE. And Booker T was a huge star in WCW. And being able to beat him for my, that would be my second world title, but it was the WCW title. That was a big time for me. Beating Booker T, and we had such an incredible match. The guy's extremely talented, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And it was a big move for me, and it definitely pushed my career further, made me bigger and more popular.
Exactly. Now let's talk about the feud you had with the late great Chris Benoit.
Chris, yes.
Okay, let's talk about that. Obviously, guys, you can't. Beautiful. Tag team champion with him, WrestleMania 17. Obviously, there's so many others as well. The Ultimate Submission match, and then the Royal Rumble match that you love yourself. Just talk about that feud and the history that you had with Chris Benoit.
Chris was the best in-ring performer I've ever faced. I put him above me. I put him above Eddie Guerrero, who I have the utmost respect for. Bret Hart too. Bret's my guy. I mean, he's besides Chris Benoit, Bret is the one guy that I never got to wrestle that I wish I would have wrestled. But Chris was just so good. In that ring, he was so intense, and he was very technical, and he just had a knack for being like the way he owns the ring. Like it's his ring, and it's nobody else's. And I felt like when I wrestled him, I was wrestling my twin because he had the same technical ability and the same intensity. And so him and I had incredible chemistry. And he was my biggest nemesis. A lot of people think Brock Lesnar was, or Stone Cold Steve Austin was, but I spent more time wrestling Chris Benoit than anybody else in the company. And they were my favorite matches. I would literally say that 10 of my favorite matches, 8 of them were with Chris Benoit. That's how good he was. And so I had a lot of fun working with Chris. And I also got to tag with him. Even when we were tagging, we were still beating each other up. So, the program always continued on, whether we were teaming up or whether we were against each other. But Chris was my favorite to be in the ring with, and I really had a lot of great matches with him, and I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity to get in the ring with him. Because I watched him in WCW. I remember he had a match before they went out of business. It was against Bret Hart. And it was just a knockdown, drag-out match. It was so incredible. I was like a huge fan of both of them. I was such a fanboy for them. I was like, please come up to the WWE, So I was grateful that, unfortunately, Bret left a year before I came up to WWE. So I missed him by a year. And with that incident with Goldberg, obviously that knocked him out of wrestling for the rest of his life, unfortunately. But Bret and Chris Benoit are 2 of my favorites of all time.
Perfect. Couldn't have said that great.
And they're both Canadian.
Well, I gotta say, we all know that you're a proud American, but today you're a proud Canadian. We obviously adopt you here. So welcome to Canada, right, guys? Now, let's talk about another feud with Brock Lesnar, as you just mentioned. Right there. Let's talk about that.
Brock, he is a freak of nature. He's one of those guys that whatever he focuses on, he's going to succeed. Put it this way, if he would have spent a year in NFL Europe, he would have been an NFL player. He was the last cut for the Minnesota Vikings, and that's pretty impressive when you don't play a day of football in your life, and all of a sudden you almost make the team. And they would have brought him on the team if he would have played in NFL Europe for a year. But Brock doesn't like to travel. He doesn't like people. And he wants to be at home on his farm and hunt and fish. Okay, so that's Brock. But he's such an incredible athlete. He was 320 pounds. He ran a 4.5 40. Whatever he put his mind to, whether it be football or UFC or wrestling, even if it was baseball, he would have probably been a pro baseball player. That's how athletic he is. And I had a lot of great matches with Brock, and his athletic ability he was the quickest, most agile big man I've ever been in a ring with. And we had some amazing matches. WrestleMania 19 was a great one, but my favorite one was the Iron Man match. When you think about two wrestlers that were only in the business, Brock was in the business for 3 years, I was in the business for 4, and you give them an Iron Man match with that little experience, you're probably going to have a catastrophe. But we didn't. We had one of the greatest Iron Man matches of all time. And we had 7 falls in the match. Brock won 4-3. And the crazy thing about it, and this is something that touches close to home for me, the night before, my sister died of a heroin overdose. And so it was, I didn't want to wrestle. And WWE was trying to, they called me and told me they wanted me to go home and plan a funeral for my sister, that I didn't have to show up for TV. But I knew my sister would want me to wrestle. So I told Vince, I said, I'm going to come in and wrestle, Vince, because I know my sister would want me to do this, and I want to do it for her. So I had that match with Brock, and I had that extra strength, behind me with my sister. And I got really emotional in that match, and I think that's why the match was so good. It brought out a lot of emotion out of me, and I made sure that I made this one of my best matches of my career. And so Brock, we had some great matches, and I have so much respect for the kid. I did have a real wrestling match with him at one point in time. I don't know if you guys ever heard about it, but what happened was when Brock Lesnar started in the business, Vince McMahon invited him up to TV for his debut, and the Brooklyn Brawler went up to Brock and said, hey, what would happen if you and Kurt wrestled for real? And Brock said, I'd kill him. So Brawler came to me and said, hey, Brock said he'd kill you if you guys had a wrestle match. So I went up to Brock and I said, hey, Brock, I'm Kurt Angle. He said, nice to meet you. I said, I heard you think you could beat me in a wrestle match. He goes, yeah, you're small. I said, well, how much you weigh, Brock? He said, 320. He said, how much you weigh? I said, 210. He goes, well, you're small, Angle. So I said, well, let's get in the ring and let's go. And he said, I have sandals on. So I took my shoes off. I said, let's go barefoot. He said, no, I don't want to do that. So I let him slide. And the following week, he was in the ring with Big Show, and they were wrestling for real. And Big Show weighed about 530 pounds at this point in time. And Brock was picking him up and slamming him. I mean, and Big Show was trying to wrestle, and he was trying to fight Brock. And Brock was just annihilating him. And I'm like, holy shit, I don't think I can beat this kid. So I was like, I don't know if I should go in that ring right now or not. So Big Show was facing me. He was on the other side of Brock. They were in the ring. I was outside. I was on the floor. And Brock's back was to me. And I said, Big Show, get out of the ring. And he nodded his head. He got out of the ring. And I walked in the ring and tapped Brock on the shoulder. He turned around. I said, we got it. Let's go. Let's do this right now. So he was like, okay, I got to go. I know I got to go. So we went for about 15 minutes. It was a good little wrestling match. I took him down about 3 times. He didn't take me down at all, but so I beat Brock. I didn't crush him like a lot of people said I did, but I beat him. But that's my claim to fame.
I love it. Now let's talk about the late, great Eddie Guerrero, WrestleMania 20.
Oh, Eddie, wow. One thing I'll say about Eddie Guerrero, he's also up there with Chris Benoit and Bret Hart. But like overall, as an overall performer, promo skills, look, wrestling ability, him and Shawn Michaels are 2 of the greatest of all time. Okay, and Eddie wasn't even in his prime when I wrestled him. You have to remember, Eddie broke his hip in WCW. I guess he was driving and he was drunk and he got in a crash, ended up breaking his hip bone and his leg bone. So when he came back, he wasn't the same. But nobody knows this because he had to change his style, but he was so good that, he did a lot less lucha libre stuff and he became more of a heavyweight wrestler. But it didn't affect his wrestling. But knowing that Eddie wasn't in his prime, he was still one of the greatest of all time. And that's how good Eddie was. And I'll never forget when I wrestled him at WrestleMania 20, that match was so incredible. And Eddie came up with this amazing finish. I mean, Eddie lied, cheated, and stole his way to victory. And he did it again at this WrestleMania. He came to me the week before. He said, I have an idea for a finish. I said, well, what is it, Eddie? Because I knew he was going to retain the title. So he said, well, what I want you to do is I want you to get an ankle lock on me and kind of almost break my ankle. And what I'll do is I'll sell the ankle, and what I'll do is I'll untie my boot. And when you get the ankle lock on me again, I'll sneak out of the boot, and then you attack me and I'll roll you up and pin you. And I was like, wow, that's a great finish, because not only does it make Eddie lie, cheat, and steal his way to victory, but it also protects me, because I got beat by him cheating. So I was like, good idea, Eddie, that's a great one. So, but that finish is the most memorable finish of my career. Eddie was so good at putting finishes together. He was a guy that, because he was an alcoholic for so long, his memory started going and he would forget stuff. And so he was really adamant about structuring matches and putting matches together. And also he liked to not plan everything. He liked to, what's it called when you, improv. He liked to improv. And Eddie was really good at that. Like he can improv a whole wrestling match and you wouldn't know it. So because his memory went, the improv was actually a bonus for him because he didn't have to remember that stuff in the match. So, Eddie, half the match would be improv and the other half would be planned out. But him and Undertaker and Triple H are the only three ones, and Stone Cold Steve Austin, are the only four ones that could literally call a whole entire match in the ring. So have it not planned at all and go in there and do the whole match and have it be 4 or 5 stars. There aren't too many individuals that can do that. And Eddie was one of them. And I consider him one of the greatest of all time.
Now I gotta say let's talk about somebody that's made headlines now, John Cena. Let's talk about, before we get to that, obviously, let's talk about the ruthless aggression. Okay, let's just say, you obviously started, you could say you started John Cena, his rise.
Yeah, he pissed me off. He slapped me pretty hard the first time.
Let's say, how was that just going in the ring with him and just seeing the star that he is today?
John opened my eyes the first time I wrestled him. When he came out to the ring, he had such a great look. And he looked really robotic, though. I was like, hey, you know what? This kid looks like a bodybuilder. Probably can't wrestle in the ring. Probably just a horrible athlete. And I go out there, and he blew me away. I mean, we had a 12-minute match, and I literally did not let up on him. I didn't intentionally want to get him to blow up or get tired, but I kind of did. I just wanted to test the kid to see if he had, some balls. And he passed the test. I mean, with flying colors. Not only did he not get tired, but his moveset and everything that he did, he was a really good athlete. I didn't think he was as good of an athlete as he showed me. And I knew right then that this kid had a huge future in front of him. I barely beat him there. And he went on, and what's crazy is the WWE was going to let him go. And what happened was Stephanie McMahon heard him rap on an airplane, and she went back and told Vince, he can rap, this kid can rap. So Vince was like, okay, well, John, can we start having you doing some rap promos? And John started doing that, and his popularity just skyrocketed. I mean, so John became, the one of the top guys in the company in literally like 6 months. I mean, it happened that quickly. And he had such a huge beginning of his career. And you know what? As his career went on, he got better and better. And by the time I left WWE in 2006, John was on his way to winning titles left and right. And he's the only guy to win 16 WWE World Heavyweight titles in history. And I consider him the greatest WWE superstar of all time. And I wouldn't be surprised if he wins 17.
Now I gotta say, now his whole heel turn right now? Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare. I'm just shutting this out as a little propaganda. Can you actually see yourself with Cody Rhodes? It just makes sense. He has The Rock on his side. He has Travis Scott. Perhaps you could go with Cody Rhodes. We'll get to that after that. We'll talk about that later. Let's talk about that. Are you impressed with his heel turn?
Cody Rhodes or John Cena? Yeah, well, I heard that Cody was supposed to turn heel, but I guess he didn't feel comfortable doing that, which is fine. I mean, I get it. Cody Rhodes is a huge babyface, but so is John Cena. I mean, it's crazy. I'm looking on social media. I'm like looking at like 200 different posts of kids crying because John Cena turned heel. I'm like, what the hell? So, these kids, it's just, this kid was the most beloved wrestler. Now, don't get me wrong. When I wrestled him quite a few times, because I was bouncing back baby heel, a lot of the grown-up fans, half of them didn't like John, and I'm not sure why. Like, we would have matches where I was the full-blown heel and he was a babyface. Half the crowd would be cheering for me and the other half would be cheering John. And I'm not sure why that was, but it was the grown-ups that all the kids loved John, and rightfully so. I mean, if you can rap and you can wrestle in the ring and have 5-star matches like John does, obviously kids are going to love you. But John's, I won't say he's the greatest technical wrestler of all time, but he is the greatest WWE superstar of all time. He's earned that right, and Ric Flair has 16 World Heavyweight titles, but they're with WCW, NWA, and WWE. John Cena, he's all WWE, so I consider him the greatest.
And I gotta say, I'm gonna run down some segments, but you have to tell me which one stands out to you the best. Obviously, the rap battle versus John Cena here in Toronto.
Yeah.
That was great. Then obviously you have your milk bath, as you may say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you obviously have the Edge when he just kept pulling up the signs like you suck, all that extra stuff. Okay. And just all that right there.
What about you're a boy in a man's world?
Exactly. And how about the segment as well that just stands out to me, one of my favorites, when you're doing the guitar as well with Stone Cold Steve Austin?
Oh, God,
how about that
Jimmy Crack Corn.
Yes, exactly.
How about Sexy Kurt?
Sexy Kurt, yes. Okay, want to sing the line for them right now? Let them sing along.
God, I don't know.
Just a sexy Kurt. Sexy Kurt.
Hold on. I'm going to try to perform it for you.
Let's go!
Wait a minute. I'm trying to remember the words.
Oh, I thought you were going to stand up and give us a whole dance.
No, I'm not going to get up and dance. I have my knees replaced. All right, let's see. All right, here we go. I think I'm cute. I got gold medals. I got the moves that makes them all tap out the angle slam, the ankle lock, Marie Jannetty. Still can't walk, I'm just a sexy Kurt.
Sexy Kurt.
I'll make your ankle hurt.
Ankle hurt.
I'm just a sexy Kurt.
Sexy Kurt.
I'll make your ankle hurt.
Ankle hurt. If that doesn't go viral, I don't know what else will go viral. I gotta say now, so many iconic WWE memories that you gave us. I want to thank you as well. Guys, give him his flowers. So many iconic, right? I gotta say now, one down the timeline here for WWE and WWF. What was your most iconic and favorite moment of yours?
My most iconic moment was when I got to spray down Stone Cold Steve Austin in the alliance with Milk. I'm going to tell you a story about this real quick. This was really embarrassing, but when I got done with that, we used real milk for when I was drinking the milk, but the hose it was water with white food coloring. So when I drove the truck out, the hose wasn't attached to the truck. It was attached to the backstage, hooked onto a what do you call it? A thing that
The hose that goes into the truck.
Yeah,
into
what's it called?
Guys, we're all lost here. Give us some help.
Whatever it is that you hook it up to get the water moving. So they had it hooked on the truck. So when I brought it out, I sprayed down Stone Cold Steve Austin in the alliance with milk. And then I got up on the milk truck and I started drinking these gallons of milk and I'm throwing them down. And the thing is, I got to catch a red eye that night. And it was an hour and a half from right after I just got done wrestling. And I had to drive from Sacramento to San Francisco to the airport to catch the red eye. So I couldn't change. So I had milk all over my shirt, my shorts, and my shoes. And I got on the plane, and after 3 hours, I smelled like spoiled milk. And people were going, "What the fuck smells in here?" And I'm like, I was in the corner like, oh, God.
I love it. I got to say now, what did it mean to you to get that phone call and say you're going to get inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame?
That was a huge honor for me. But the thing was, I wasn't that excited about it because I wasn't done wrestling. I know that Vince McMahon, I knew he felt like he was taking a chance with me, bringing me back with the painkiller problem I had back when I was in WWE the first time. So Vince was kind of like bringing me in slowly. And what he said, Kurt, what we're going to do is we're going to induct you in the Hall of Fame. I said, Vince, I'm not done wrestling. He said, that's okay. We'll induct you in the Hall of Fame, and then we'll have you start wrestling. So I get inducted in the Hall of Fame, and then that night after I did my speech, Vince came into my locker room and said, hey, we want you to be the GM of Raw. I was like, Vince, I'm not done wrestling. He said, well, I want you to be a GM of Raw just for a little bit of time. So I know why he did that, and I think it's because he wanted to slowly bring me in. But what happened was when I was GM of Raw, I stopped getting in the ring because I was so busy being the GM that I stopped training. And for 9 months, I did nothing but be the GM of Raw. And because of that, I was almost 50 years old. And my body started shutting down. And I started getting arthritis in my knees and in my shoulders and my elbows and in my neck. And when I got out in that ring to wrestle, I wasn't the same person. And every time I saw myself wrestle on TV, I'd be like, oh God, I look horrible. I look like an old man. And I didn't want the fans to remember me like that. So when I decided to retire, I decided to retire a year early. And what I did is I went to Vince and I said, Vince, listen, I don't like the way I'm wrestling now. I feel like I'm not the same person I used to be. Could you give me John Cena for WrestleMania? Because I want to retire with John. I want to retire with the guy that I started his career. And John Cena was a huge star. And Vince said, well, no, you have a program with Baron Corbin. And he said, you're going to have to stick with that. If you want John Cena, you can have him next year. And I said, Vince, I can't wait another year. So he said, well, then you're going to get Baron Corbin. So that's who I retired with. And I didn't have a problem with retiring with Baron Corbin. He's a great kid and he's a great wrestler. But I just don't feel like I got the respect I deserved. Leaving wrestling for good and retiring that way. And also not really having great matches before I retired. Like John Cena has this whole retirement tour. It's a whole year long. Vince gave me 3 matches. He said, hey, you're gonna have a quick tour 3 weeks in a row. And so I felt like because I left the company in 2006, when I came back in 2017, Vince was gonna stick it to me. And he did. And I understand. It's not a problem. I get it. You know, you have to remember, you know, guys like The Rock or John Cena, guys like Undertaker, they never left the WWE. They never went stray. They never left the company and came back. So being loyal to that company, they're going to treat you a lot better. When you decide to leave, you get up and leave, and you go to another company, you know, the WWE's going to have a little bitter taste in their mouth about you. So I understood why they did that, and it was okay, but I just felt like I deserved a better send-off than that.
Now we're winding down to this now. Now these are the questions that the fans love. I gotta tell you now, if there could be a dream match for you, you versus anybody, you said Benoit and Brett. Will that be a dream match for you if you could actually pick one, past and present, anybody?
Bret Hart. Bret Hart, he's my all-time, the guy, you know, when I started wrestling, I didn't watch wrestling because I was told not to. But when I started wrestling, pro wrestling, I watched Bret Hart all the time. I mean, I watched tapes of him and Shawn Michaels, Iron Man match at WrestleMania, just all the matches that Bret Hart had. And he didn't have a lot in WCW because of, you know, what happened to him, but he had so many incredible matches in WWE. And he was such a technical guru. It's how I wanted to portray myself. And same with Chris Benoit. And so Bret was the one guy that always, that got away from me and that I didn't have the opportunity to work with. And I got to wrestle Shawn Michaels, I got to wrestle Eddie Guerrero, I got to wrestle Chris Benoit, but never Bret. And I wish I would have done that. And I know Bret wishes that as well. And I know he's talked about it quite a few times. And we have a mutual respect for each other. And the respect goes both ways. And I know he comes from an incredible family with an incredible history. And one thing I did get to do, and I'm glad I did, is I got to wrestle Owen Hart. And that was. I will tell you this: Owen is every bit as good as Bret. I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves. And I think it's because he was kind of an idiot, you know. He was, he had a sense of humor, and he ribbed a lot of people, and but I'm glad I got to wrestle Owen, and I actually wrestled him 5 days before he died. It was a dark match, and I remember Owen structuring the match for me and calling the whole entire match in the ring, and he's another guy that was able to improvise, and I was scared as hell because I was only in the business 2 months, and I'm wrestling Owen Hart, and he doesn't want to tell me what we're doing before the match starts. He said, we're going to do it out there, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't know what I'm doing. But he led me through the whole thing, and I knew how good he really was because of the way he led me through that match. He was a pro.
Give it up for Owen, guys, come on. Now you gotta tell me, you gotta give it to us. Who is your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers?
Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. Gosh, man, it's so hard because my Mount Rushmores change all the time.
Add yourself in there. Why not? Add Kurt Angle, right? Of course.
No, I can't add myself. Because there's too many. I can't add myself. No, I love Macho Man, but Would you add John Cena? The only reason why I don't pick Macho Man, because he was a great wrestler, was because he was way before my time. And I got to see Bret. I didn't get to see Macho Man that much. I got to see Bret Hart. I got to see Shawn Michaels. I got to see Undertaker, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero. I got to wrestle with these guys, not Bret, but everybody else. And if I'm gonna, like Ric Flair, you would think I would put him on the Mount Rushmore, but I didn't wrestle Rick in his prime. So I decide not to add him because he should be on it, but because I didn't wrestle him, I did wrestle him, but not in his prime. But the guys I wrestled in their prime, that's who I put up there. And that's Shawn Michaels, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, and Undertaker. I put Bret Hart up there because he is the best of all time, but so I got 5 on my Mount Rushmore.
Perfect. I love it. Bret Hart as well in the show, he actually added 5 as well.
Yeah.
So the similarities there. Now I'm going to say, last question. When it's all said and done, what do you want the fans to remember Kurt Angle as?
Oh, gosh. A freeloader? No. No, you know what? I want the fans to remember that I entertained them the best that I could. I remember when Vince McMahon came to me and said, listen, we're going to make you a goofy bastard. And I was like, well, Vince, the fans aren't going to take me seriously. He said, yes, they will. And you know why? And I said, why, Vince? And he said, because you're an Olympic gold medalist. When you go out there, the fans are going to think that you're going to tear everybody's head off. So it doesn't matter how goofy your pre-tapes are or how funny you are, they're always going to take you seriously. And he said, you have an advantage over everybody else. Because a lot of people won't do that stuff because they're afraid to do it because they think that it's going to, the fans won't take them seriously. And he said, because of that, you have an advantage over your opponents. You're able to be more diverse and you're able to do things that other people normally won't be able to do. And I thought about that and I said, well, that's really cool. But I didn't realize that I could be funny. I was never a funny kid. I was never a jokester. But for some reason, I have this gullible personality, and it works really good on TV. And especially when I worked with Steve Austin and Vince McMahon, we came up with some really funny pre-tapes. And with the cowboy hat on and singing Jimmy Crack Corn, we had a lot of fun doing that. And the reason why we got that done, Stone Cold, he broke his tailbone at King of the Ring, and I broke my tailbone. So we were both out. And Vince was like, I don't want my 2 top stars sitting at home. So I'll just bring them to TV and have them do funny pre-tapes. So that's how it all got started. And the crazy thing is, they wanted to improvise these pre-tapes. I didn't know how to improvise. I learned, from when I do promos, I have a photographic memory. So I would read my promo twice, even if it was 2 pages long. I would read it and remember everything. I'd go out there and I'd perform it. And they wanted to improvise. I'm like, holy shit, I don't know how to improvise. So, but after a while, I started getting the hang of it, and I was getting better and better, and the pre-tapes were becoming funnier and funnier. But the thing is, we were laughing so hard doing these pre-tapes that Vince got so pissed. He said, listen, if you guys laugh again, you're getting fined $2,000. Every time you laugh, you get fined $2,000. Well, one day I got fined $14,000. I laughed 7 times. I broke character. So the joke was on me, but we had a blast doing it. It was a lot of fun.
I can say, Kurt, guys, give it up for him right here, guys. From Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle, I got to say, it was an absolute honor, sir.
Thank you.
Honor and a privilege. Guys, give it up for Kurt Angle.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Guys, one more time. Ready? You suck. You suck.
You suck!
Perfect. You suck. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it.